All right, good evening again, everyone. So, one of my favorite people, Shabazz Stuart, the CEO of Oonee, the bike parking solution that meets all of your needs, has written an op-ed for Streets Blog New York City on the new City Council e-bike registration bill. All right, here is what he says. I'm just going to read this. Op-ed, City Council e-bike registration bill is impossible to enforce, unnecessary, and won't even work. It sounds like common sense. Register electric bikes just like cars, but there are so many flaws to this council bill. Let us set you straight. Now, it was written yesterday or published yesterday. On Wednesday, City Council will hold a hearing on a bill that will require the City Department of Transportation to create a registration system and a newly created license plate for all electric bikes, even pedal assist city bikes. Disconnected from the lessons of the past and divorced from practical and philosophical realities, the bill's sponsors and its sponsor, Robert Holden, will argue that licensing is a common sense way to address the concerns that many New Yorkers have about the behavior of some e-bike riders on the roads and regrettably on the sidewalks. Yes, people do ride on the sidewalks and it annoys me to no end. We need enforcement on the sidewalks. I don't think you need a license to enforce the law. But going on, but nothing could be further from the truth. I've spent most of my career managing public space at the city's third largest business improvement district and championing the creation of a regional secure bike parking and charging network with my company, Oonee. As such, I can promise that if this bill becomes law, not only will it fail to achieve its own stated goals, it will stand alone as one of the most regressive urban transportation policies of the 21st century. So, how we got here? Before going any further, we must acknowledge the truth. Too many e-bike riders are riding on sidewalks, running red lights, breaking the rules in ways that make some members of the public feel unsafe. Those behaviors are in fact not remotely as unsafe as those exhibited by reckless drivers, but they do present a quality of life concern for New Yorkers who have become inured to the dangers of cars and see bikes as a new thing on the streetscape. Street safety activists are often attacked for ignoring this, but we don't ignore it at all. In fact, we've been ardently advocating for decades for known, tested, proven safety designs, protected bike lanes, road diets, automated enforcement cameras, education, pedestrianized, e-bike free streets. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I love pedestrianized streets that are like 100% pedestrian. All these safety measures have been opposed at various times by Holden, Bob Holden, the guy who's sponsoring this bill, and many of his colleagues. He sure did oppose pedestrian-only streets. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I don't know why, to be honest, like all these people that showed up at the city council meeting, like 90% of them over 50, not working, or like, and so in one case there was a guy who can't work because he was hit by an e-bike, and I feel very bad for them. And I do think we need to address the safety, but the rest of them, it's just your usual Karens and get off my lawn grandpas at city council meetings. They go there every day. They don't have anything else to do. They don't have to work. They're fortunate like that. Not like the rest of us. Not like the rest of us. In any case, beyond the fact that e-bike riders, all bike riders, all pedestrians disobey the traffic laws. New York's existing traffic laws famously extend to cyclists and are the responsibility of the New York Police Department cops to enforce, which they do. The main problem, they don't do it consistently. The city's 30,000 plus member police force is fully capable of writing tickets to e-bicyclists who run red lights or ride on the sidewalks just as they can for car drivers. But the NYPD only wrote 48,000 tickets to drivers and cyclists for running red lights this year, which works out to fewer than 2 tickets per precinct per day. That's hardly going to stop the problem. In addition, safer streets start with lower speeds. In addition to cracking down on reckless drivers, which the State Department of Motor Vehicles does not do with any consistency, the state could reclassify the fastest e-bikes, which are known as currently as Class 3 and can throttle like a motorcycle up to 25 miles per hour, as a motorcycle that must be registered. But that will result from state legislation, not Bob Holden's proposed city-level regime. Bob Holden's bill, officially Intro 606, is seductive in its simplicity. It would require all powered bikes, scooters, skateboards, one wheels, and even motorized wheelchairs to be registered under a new bureaucracy inside the Department of Transportation, and to prominently display a registration plate similar to a license plate. The purported reasoning is that if bikes and other small conveyances had license plates, it would be easier for law enforcement to track down offenders or for citizens to report them. Behind this veil, however, is a monster of a mandate that will be expensive, difficult to enforce, and prejudicial and practically useless. Basically, criminals are going to crime, and like if someone's so aggressive in their crime, they are not going to register their e-bike with the New York City Department of Transportation. They're not going to do it. And then you're going to be back where you started, looking for people who don't exist. Now, there's an expensive buy-in for the, oh, look, here's a picture of a car with their license plate obstructed. Yeah, they do this to get out of people trying to catch them for violating the law. With that vehicle can murder you in one hit. Whereas a bike, you'll still come out alive. Granted, it's still no less painful, and I understand. Look, I've been hit myself, all that. So I understand there is a risk there, and I'm sorry for the people who have been harmed. So I truly am. So for the bill to even hope to achieve its goal of accountability, nearly all e-bike riders would need to register and prominently affix plates onto their bikes. After all, if few people even display the plates, how will anybody identify the vehicle in question for enforcement purposes? This is far more complicated than it seems. First, the DOT was have to create a sub-department to register and issue the plates. This would entail building out a secure enterprise-level database and registration system and hiring a contractor for issuing the plates themselves. Both of these projects would almost certainly require a lengthy procurement process and would cost millions to set up. There are hundreds of thousands of e-bikes, e-scooters, and other motorized devices within the 5 boroughs. Creating a secure registration system and the ability to correctly issue the plates won't be cheap or fast. And that's not all. Would cyclists register their e-bikes at the point of purchase? If so, That will require lengthy discussions with equipment manufacturers, bike shops, and resellers. And if cyclists are on the hook for doing it themselves, how will they be notified? Will the city be forced to spend millions on public service ads, which never work anyway? Will cyclists have to register in person at some sort of mini DMV, or would there be an online portal? Both of these options, of course, would be quite expensive for taxpayers. And you know what? That's what people were trying to say. I saw in the city council meeting on Zoom, all that. That's what the people who were against Intro 66 were trying to say, is that you don't understand the scale of the bureaucracy you're trying to create with this. Like, these people who've been out of work for years, most of them, go to these meetings at city council, and a lot of these people on city council have never worked a real job in their lives, like worked for a corporation or worked for a technology company. Like I have worked for multiple large corporations with huge technology departments. It is no small feat. Hell, even a small company is no small feat. And if you look at the government's websites right now, you think they're going to be able to do New York City is going to be able to do this at that level. It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic. I mean, look, I understand people are emotional about what happened to them, some of them, and, about their feelings. I got it, but it's not going to work. So, and there are more questions. What will be the grace period for the hundreds of thousands of bikes and scooters that already live in the homes of New Yorkers? Will the system be able to process many thousands of registrations per day? Will parents be responsible for registering their kids' bikes? How would the mandate apply to the hundreds of thousands of people that move to the city each year with little knowledge of New York's new program? Moreover, what about the commuters who bring their bikes, scooters, and other e-micromobility devices from New Jersey, Long Island, other jurisdictions each day? Will they have to display plates as well, or swap out the plates from other jurisdictions that will jump on the registration bandwagon once New York City acts? It's reasonable to assume that the bill's supporters have thought through all of these critical questions, but they have not. And that was very clear when I was listening to the meeting this afternoon, when the people were starting to testify, all that. They were not paying attention they didn't think it through. They just jumped on board and they didn't think it through. And to be honest, I'm a little disappointed in the city council members because they didn't think it through. And, this is why Eric Adams, even though he supports this bill, well, he also supported something else that said you got to figure out what the financial impact of all these laws y'all city council is passing, and they don't have any clue about how the finances are going to work with it and how it's going to be implemented, but they're just going to tell the mayor's office and the agency to just spin up this program out of thin air. It's reasonable. So in fact, the only implementation mandate in the bill's 460 words are these. This local law takes effect 120 days after it becomes law. Yeah, they didn't think through it. They didn't think through it. Good Lord. Oh, send it back. Send it back. I get everybody's emotional, send it back, but this is bad government. This is bad government. This is why Democrats like Bob Holden, centrist Democrats, they're worse than liberal Democrats. They're worse than conservatives. They come up with these harebrained schemes that, all bureaucracy and no benefit. They want to do this legislative cosplay so they can feel good in front of some of their most vocal constituents. But then by the time they're out of office, we're left to clean up. Those younger people are left to figure out the mess. Teenagers in Perth Amboy could tell you how they learned about their town's infamous registration scheme. Recall what happened in the Jersey town in 2021. In April, a group of teens were stopped by cops for riding unregistered bikes. One was even detained in handcuffs at police headquarters, and the others had their bikes seized. A video of the incident went viral, and critics charged the police with unnecessary harassing minority teens who were doing little else other than being teens. They learned the hard way, but so did Perth Amboy. The city scrapped its registration plan soon after. But absent an unprecedented and costly public education program, the same fate likely awaits many thousands of New Yorkers, especially those who hail from poor minority neighborhoods, if this bill passes. In addition, this bill threatens to bring back the specter of selective policing and the era of stop and frisk. Registration mandates are notoriously difficult to enforce at almost every level of government. The federal government intended real IDs to be the FAA standard in 2008, but the program suffered from low compliance, even with the full muscle of the state's DMVs and the specter of not being able to fly. Today, only 56% of Americans have converted, 19 years after the original goal of 100%. To avoid this fate, the NYPD would have to mount a massive long-term enforcement blitz to crack down on those who do not get their registrations in time. It will be expensive, laborious, and ugly. Police will have to be thoroughly trained on how to spot unregistered bikes and scooters. New Yorkers will pay millions of dollars in fines, not for unsafe biking, such as riding the wrong way down a sidewalk, but for simply not displaying their plates on e-bikes and e-scooters. Police vans will have to be dispatched to confiscate the many thousands of e-bikes and scooters, many of which will go unclaimed, as the owners will simply lack the funds to pay for their return. That includes people whose livelihood depends on having a bike. So in a cruel, ironic twist, Holden may hamstring officers from enforcing existing traffic laws, thereby exacerbating the very safety issue, against which he is crusading. Of course, many will simply turn to counterfeiting, and cops will be hard-pressed to tell what's real and what's fake. I swear, officer, this is a legal Yonkers plate. With all of this time, energy, and money dedicated to simply getting cyclists to comply with registration, the New York Police Department actually have time left to stop the actual traffic violations. The net result, of course, will be a chilling effect on the public. New Yorkers simply won't ride e-bikes or e-scooters. The greenest, most accessible transportation mode will be outlawed by default in Gotham City. Supporters of the bill say a registration bill will give officers a tool to bring back order to the sidewalks, because if e-bikes are registered, police can track offenders and there can be accountability. Such a system already exists. It's called ID. Almost every resident in the city has a government-issued identification card, which have become the standard means of identification in America today. They're used at neighborhood liquor stores, international airports. They're easy to replace and are now even on a mobile app. New Yorkers have had the misfortune to have been stopped by police know firsthand. The first question is always, let me see some ID. As a result, police have no problem holding reckless cyclists accountable. Indeed, thousands of cyclists already receive tickets from cops for running red lights or not having bells. Holden's bill would not change this. It would indeed reduce the police department's ability to focus solely on a few bad apples who are making the road safe. The only remotely plausible use for this program is that citizens can quickly whip out their phones and record e-bikers and skateboarders as they violate the rules, and then forward these videos to their local precinct for investigation. That's laughable, which is laughable, because anyone who's tried to do this with a full-size car can tell you, as Streets Blog has exhaustively documented, the police simply do not respond to complaints about bad driving from the public, and they'll be even less likely to respond with bikes. Holden should also take note that history is replete with cities that have run away from cycling registration schemes. often at the request of their own police departments. Los Angeles repealed its failed bike registration program after the LAPD described registration enforcement as not prudent compared to enforcement of real moving violations. Toronto spent more than a year studying the registration program and roundly rejected the scheme. Detroit and Washington repealed their programs after 2008 for similar reasons. Holden wants New Yorkers to spend the next 5 years learning what everyone else has already figured out. Woo! Yeah, let's not do that. Sylvina, sweetie, let's not do that. Let's not go down this path. I see like Eric Botcher and what's that girl's name? Gail Brewer, representative of the unproductive, older, not working white women of the Upper West Side. Yeah, let's not do that, because I can assure you that when us younger generation come to take over, that law is history. Like, it's going to be history, just like all of you when we get rid of it. So let's not go there in the first place. Leave New York alone for the benefit of the city. The state maybe can do something with relation to a delivery license for all delivery workers, regardless of their mode of transportation. Maybe that's something worth exploring, but sans that, I think the city should stay out of it and work on making the infrastructure top notch so that it encourages people to self-enforce, be a self-enforcement, following the law themselves, being respectable, decent human beings. That's what I would say about that. All right, so let me know what you think. Love Shabazz Stuart. Wonderful, wonderful. Everything he's doing is wonderful. We love to hear from him. And leave a comment. And, if you disagree with me, that's fine. Leave a comment. I'll discuss it. We can talk about it. I'm not angry at anybody. I love everybody. All right. Take care.